The most important thing you can have as a man on your growth journey is a vision, right? A sense of direction and knowing of where you're going. I hear a lot of talk about motivation, right? How do I stay motivated? Well, it's going to be pretty difficult to stay motivated if you don't have a clear sense of where you're going. Why would you be? So I think it's really important that we get super clear on what this actually looks like. And this is what this whole video is going to be about. And you can tie this in with the whole of the man's journey too. I think a lot of the time, the reason why we're struggling and we stay there is because we're staying there. We're focusing on the past. We're focusing on what we should have done, could have done differently. We're focusing on healing all of the time. And a lot of this stuff, it has its place, it has its purpose. But really what we need is to let go of the former identity, the former version of ourselves, and step into someone new, create a new identity and a new way forward. Without a vision, this is where you will drift, right? And this looks like, as I mentioned, a lack of motivation, inconsistency, and reacting to life instead of directing it. Motivation isn't a character trait. It's a response to clarity. If you don't know where you're going, effort is going to feel pointless. Discipline will feel forced, and your goals just won't stick. So your vision gives your effort meaning. It makes your life meaningful. So the way we can go about creating a vision is by looking at what an ideal day in your life looks like. And this is where you need to get really specific about what that actually is. Where are you living? How do you start your mornings? Who are you waking up next to? How do you spend your time? How do you feel every single day? This isn't a fantasy, it's an orientation. It's important that you are really specific about what this actually looks like. And you can construct a mission statement that you read every morning. And this details exactly what you're doing day to day. And it's important that you write this in the present tense. And what this mission statement does is it keeps you focused and it reinforces the behavior, the life that you're stepping into. So I like to read this every morning when I wake up, and ideally at nighttime as well. So I won't read out my full mission statement, but I'll just give you an example of what this might look like. Again, you'll be a lot clearer than this and get super specific and make them really ambitious goals as well. But mine looks a little something like this. In the present tense, I live grounded, disciplined, and calm in my body and mind. I train consistently, compete in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and pro wrestling, and I meet physical and psychological pressure with presence rather than force. I build a coaching business rooted in clarity, emotional regulation, and integrity, working with men who want to lead themselves rather than perform for approval. I choose environments, routines, and relationships that support my nervous system, health, and creative focus. I move forward patiently, trusting the pace of what I'm building. Again, get super specific. If the picture is vague, your actions will be vague. And for some people, this eventually extends into a longer-term mission or a purpose, something bigger than yourself. But this only works if your day-to-day life is aligned, which is why I like to start here. Otherwise, it stays theoretical. So now that you've got your mission statement and a vision of where you want to go, now it's time for a bit of a reality check. Where actually are you right now? Look honestly at your life. Ask yourself which areas are furthest away from where I want them to be. So you can rate different areas of your life from 1 to 10. There's many different areas. It might be physical health, mental health, spirituality, friendships, relationships, and this will reveal to you when you rank it honestly on a scale of 1 to 10 where your energy is leaking and where progress would create the biggest shift. And here, pay attention to where you might be ranking yourself too high or too low. Now that you have this all down, let's narrow the focus a bit. Trying to improve everything at once, I believe, can keep people stuck. This idea that we have every single segment of our life, every area of our life figured out, I don't know a single person who has that, at least not at the same time. So especially when you're in a growth phase of your life, balance is unrealistic. There will be trade-offs along the way. And I think it's normal for some areas to be a little bit average while you give a greater amount of focus elsewhere. There might be 1 or 2 here that you will choose as your main focus for this season. That said, we can focus on daily habits that create positive knock-on effects on the other areas of our life. So for example, for me, when I wake up, I do my usual meditation, cold shower, reading, and then I go to the gym straight away. And this is because when I go to the gym, not only do I have better rest or sleep later on in the day, but I find that I work a lot better as well. I have better focus. Plus, I feel great as well. And in some cases, like jiu-jitsu, which depending on the day, I'll either have in the morning or at lunchtime, it's really fun as well. So I've got all 4 pillars of my life sorted with that one habit. So if you can sit these early in the day, that's great because it sets you up for the rest of the day. Discipline works best when it reinforces identity not willpower. Discipline isn't about fixing yourself. You're already whole as you are now. I see discipline as a way of creating alignment in yourself. It ensures that your behaviors are aligned with the person that you're becoming. And alignment is a key theme here in terms of how we structure our day. So the way I like to see alignment is how our body and our nervous system respond to what we do day to day. You might already have parts of this figured out, but it's important that we continue to maintain an awareness of what's going on in the wider picture. So for example, let's say you go and meet somebody. How do you feel after your interaction with them or during your interaction? Do you feel calm, present? Does it energize you? Or do you feel drained? Notice how it feels in your body. Do you get a bit anxious? Does your chest tighten a bit? Do you get frustrated? Pay attention to this, because that's your body telling you, signaling to you that something's out of alignment. This goes for bad food as well. Let's say you want to eat healthier. Pay attention to how eating bad food makes you feel. Foods high in sugar, for example. Whatever it may be, pay attention to what feels good for you. And it's a continual process of refinement. The more you can experiment early on, the better. I experimented with different times going to the gym, different eating times, and it took me a while to realize what works for me. Now, for example, I eat one meal a day and it's a feast in the evening. That's because whenever I ate early on in the day, I would feel a bit tired, sluggish after. That's just what worked for me. Same with the gym. I found that whenever I prioritized work first thing in the morning over gym, my work wasn't as good, and I'd end up rushing my gym workout at 6 or 7 when the gym was busy. And that also meant that I was more likely to skip it for the day. Again, we're going to get slip-ups along the way, but if you're going to indulge in something that you know isn't aligned with where you're going, just at the very least be aware. Have the awareness of what it's doing to you, how you feel. For example, if you've said in your vision that you want a long-term partner, a loving relationship, a fruitful relationship, yet you're having one-night stands, then that's not aligned. If you're going to have a one-night stand, pay attention to how it feels in your body. How do you feel after, during? How do you feel on a deeper level? Really connect with that. But the aim here isn't to make yourself feel guilty for not following these habits that are aligned with where you're going. It's all about awareness and realizing what actually works for you and learning the lessons that come with that. Start noticing, where do you feel most energized? Who energizes you? Who's draining you? And what environments make you feel tense or scattered? It's not about avoiding discomfort. It's about distinguishing a healthy challenge versus misalignment. Journaling, I think, is a fantastic tool for this because it helps you notice patterns. Personally, I like to leave it to the end of the day, and that way I can just jot down. It can only be a couple of lines, but it's noticing. Again, it comes back to awareness. It's noticing how I felt after interactions, which routines really supported me today, and which habits aren't actually right for me. They drain me a bit. Over time, alignment will become obvious, but you've got to find that out for yourself. And we've spoken a bit about work as well. When your mission is clear, when your vision is clear, you'll naturally want to work very hard towards it. But productivity doesn't come from pressure, but I found that it comes from the right internal state. So for example, I have a mission. I feel very motivated and inspired a lot of the time. However, I work best when I'm calm and I'm regulated. Sometimes it will be 1 p.m, my focus is gone. I've noticed I want to go onto YouTube and watch some stuff. That's the time where forcing my behavior towards my vision, it actually backfires. And so when I'm in that state now, I have to have the discipline to go, you know what? I'm not feeling it right now. I know whatever I create, even if I do create it, it's not going to be aligned with the best version of myself. Why would it be? So that's when I'll go for a walk, I'll maybe meditate for a bit, do some breath work, or just have a reset. And then when I honor that, the clarity always comes back naturally, but you've got to pay attention again to your nervous system. That's how you make sure you're still living in alignment with your vision. And it's a key mindset shift here. It's not laziness, it's regulation. And when you're regulated, you'll perform at your best. While we're here, I do want to touch on goals, because I believe generally they're quite misunderstood. Goals, I don't believe are a problem, but the problem can be starting with the goals. Because if you try to set goals before you've built any sense of alignment or direction, they usually turn into pressure, and that's when fear can come in. You could very well end up hitting your goals, but you won't feel any different. I've spoken with enough guys and experienced it myself to know this. Or most likely what will happen is you won't hit them at all, and you end up feeling like you failed. Which, by the way, failure isn't a bad thing, but your perception changes when you just focus on the goal. So I see goals more as milestones, right? Because once you reach the top of one mountain, you're at the bottom of another, and that cycle just continues and continues. So they're milestones on the step to the vision that you're heading into. They're simply, I see them as a checklist, right? They're a way of checking that you're simply moving in the right direction towards your vision. Once you get the clarity on what you want your day-to-day life to look like, how you want to work, train, relate to people, then these goals become a lot more obvious anyway. People have different approaches to goal setting. One way to approach it is by reverse engineering it. So looking forward to maybe a year or two and thinking, if I'm living in alignment then, what would actually be different from where I am now? And then you can work backwards and identify through practical markers, right? What are you going to do day to day to make that happen from a place of alignment? And this can apply to all areas of life, especially business. If the way you're chasing goals constantly dysregulates you, it's not in alignment, and no amount of achievement will make it sustainable. For me, I like to prioritize alignment first, and then the direction follows that. The goals come after you live in alignment. The alignment comes first, and then the goals transpire naturally after that. And by goals, again, I mean milestones. Don't get me wrong, hustle culture can work. There's been many guys who have made it work, but then I question, well, at what cost? There's many people who succeed through forcing it, but often this will lead to one of four things. It might be burnout, anxiety, health issues, disconnection from the people in your life and your life generally. And from personal experience, I've definitely come to understand the difference between hustling from alignment, where everything feels good, and hustling from fear, this lack mentality, this trying to force things even though your nervous system's telling you not to. There's a big difference there. And whichever path you choose, I believe will lead to two different outcomes. And so what I found has worked for me is, again, trying to find that balance, trusting the path that I'm on because the vision is clear and I've formed a strategy to get there. But again, never neglecting the high standards I have for myself. And sometimes a negative voice can actually be quite helpful. Just let me know something might need a bit of adjusting. I also don't think it's that bad to have a little bit of a darker energy about you too. What I mean by this is you might have something that drives you anyway. Chances are, if you're an ambitious guy, you have got some of these things driving you. You want to prove people wrong. You've got a burning desire to change your life because you're fed up of it. I think that's all positive. But again, it's finding that balance. It's always about finding that balance within yourself. If we can find that balance while also living in alignment, while having a clear vision, then I think we're sorted. But again, this ties in with the awareness piece as well. This is why every day I make it non-negotiable just to reflect on my day. Was I hustling from alignment, or was I trying to force things a bit? And the sooner you can spot that, the better. Now, one thing that is super important is that you can't have one foot in your new life, your new identity, and one foot into the old life. So I'll give you a personal example. I decided that my ideal day was training jiu-jitsu. I wanted to be physical, and that was one of the most important things that I valued. However, the old me would usually go out drinking on a Friday night, especially coming out of university. That's just what I was used to. But then I had to decide, right, who is the person I actually want to become and what's aligned with that version? My Brazilian jiu-jitsu classes happened to fall on a Saturday morning. So I had two options there. Either I go out and miss Saturday, or I show up feeling a bit lethargic and tired, or I prioritize rest and alignment. Letting go of that old lifestyle, it was challenging at first. I did feel a bit lonely, but the results that came out of that showed me that it was the right choice. My confidence increased, my overall well-being improved drastically. I actually formed better connections too, because the types of people going to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu classes on a Saturday morning were aligned with the version of me that I wanted to step into. The environment was aligned with the person that I was becoming. So a big part of this process when we're working towards this vision is letting go of the things that we no longer need in our lives. Letting go creates space, not loss. It's very important that you understand your values in this process too. And values aren't what we say we care about. A lot of the time we can mistake values for social ideals, but our values are revealed by where we're spending our time, our energy, our behavior. So the best thing you can do is to identify what your top 5 values actually are. So the way I constructed this is looking at what my long-term goals are, my most recurring thoughts, the most organized areas of my life, the areas of my life where I'm the most disciplined, the areas I allocate the majority of my finances, and the majority of topics I talk to others about. Get clear on what this top 5 looks like for you, because once you understand your values, they can act as a really good decision-making filter. So if we look at my values here, we've got personal growth and self-improvement, health and physical fitness, helping and inspiring others, relationships and connection, and curiosity and learning. That's my top 5. And ideally, you can actually put these in order of what's most important to you. So let's just take an example. Let's say for this season of my life, my physical health and well-being ranks above social connection. Again, coming back to the previous example, Rest and training will beat late nights. And this is just prioritization. Naturally in our life, we're going to make certain trade-offs. But I find for me, this just simplifies the decision-making process and ensures that my day-to-day actions and decisions are aligned with where I'm going. And again, if you've decided that relationships are an area of focus for you, then also you can think about planning intentionally. And remember that you have a choice. So for example, if I still want to continue my jiu-jitsu classes or my early morning gym workouts, maybe I'll prioritize a coffee over late night drinks. Now it's important to remember that values shift over time. They shift with seasons, different responsibilities, and growth generally. So it's important that we continue to reassess values so we don't live by outdated priorities, constantly checking. Again, I mentioned the journaling. The more you can sit and reflect, the more aligned your life will become. I would just say every month, check in with your values just to ensure you're still on the right path and everything's aligned. Remember, once you've got your vision, you've got a direction. And once you've got the direction, you've got motivation. And motivation will sustain action. And then it's just about doing the work. The final reflections you can sit with. What am I moving towards? What do I need to let go of? And what am I prioritizing right now, either consciously or unconsciously? Now remember, challenges are part of the process. This isn't always smooth sailing. Life events can happen. Certain things can throw you off path. This is all part of a journey. These are all lessons. It's not about not having setbacks or avoiding failure. It's about embracing them and learning them and continuing to show up for yourself. If you've had a bad day, it doesn't mean that you've suddenly slipped back into the old identity. You simply had a behavior misalignment. It doesn't mean you need to go back and necessarily heal more parts of yourself. You've already made an identity shift that is aligned with this vision of where you're going. So this is where you learn the lesson and keep going anyway. So it's important that you acknowledge this and you continue to have the systems in place to continuously expand your awareness. It's not about avoiding setbacks or failure. It's about learning from your experiences, brushing yourself off, going again anyway, and getting back on track.